In the medical fraternity, patients trust the doctors with their life. But what happens when the hand that heals kills? This is what has exactly happened in Bangalore. Dr. Mahendra, a general surgeon who is relatively new to the field and who was upcoming and rising in his field, married to Dr. Kruthika, a dermatologist. Both seem like a story of love, soon turned into a story of betrayal. In April 2025, Dr. Kruthika died under mysterious circumstances. The cause of death was deemed unnatural. She just had a history of gastritis for which some IV drugs were given, which is regularly done. But people didn't know what happened suddenly that it led to her death. But her father and sister suspected some foul play in this and they ordered an investigation. They also wanted a postmortem to be done, which was done and samples were sent to forensic lab, and 6 months down the line the reports have come back. These reports are alarming because the IV drug she received was actually Propofol. This Propofol is usually an IV anesthetic given in OT before any surgical procedure, which can cause severe respiratory distress. What seemed like a death due to unnatural causes is now turned into a murder investigation with the prime suspect being the husband. There is some proof for it also. Hi guys, in today's video, let's deep dive into what happened between the couple in Bangalore. So what drove such an upcoming general surgeon to perform such an heinous act? That too, inject Propofol on his own wife for a simple condition like gastritis. Imagine the trust the wife would have had on the husband that she is sick and he will take care of him, and in return the husband is injecting Propofol for a simple condition like gastritis, which can be just treated with antacids. See, this is very heinous. The basic trust that the wife which has on her husband is gone in this. See, now there are several theories floating around why the husband did this on his wife. Some are saying that infidelity is the reason, some are saying that dowry demands were made and it was not met. But the most plausible reason is the girl's father is alleging that the guy was repeatedly asking money to build his own hospital setup, and when he didn't get that money, he wanted to get out of this marriage, and the easy way out for him was the girl was sick, he wanted to give her drug, and to betray the trust the wife has on her husband, he injected an IV anesthetic on her. This anesthetic is known to cause respiratory distress and this is given under unmonitored conditions, and he did exactly that led to his wife to pass away. This is something of unimaginable proportion because this is something which nobody can even think of. Somebody is sick and you're giving a drug, and in this act you're trying to take the life of that person. Being a doctor doing this is unforgivable, and this crime has to be given the punishment it deserves. In April 2025, Dr. Kritika suddenly fell ill. She had developed gastritis, for which an IV line was put in her home and her husband was giving IV drugs. And this is where his plan exactly started. He got this Propofol drug from his OT most probably, and he gave it in metered doses to her. The final shot came at 9:30 p.m. when there is a WhatsApp message recorded where the wife is clearly saying, "My IV line is paining, I'm going to remove it." But the husband tells that, "No, no, don't remove it, keep it," and then he gives the final fatal shot. The suspicion started arising because after this fatal shot, when Kritika collapsed and she actually passed away, there was no attempt made by the husband to give CPR. This is where the girl's family thought there is some foul play here, and also he was against post-mortem, and this is when the girl's family were absolutely suspicious that something fishy is going on here and we need to conduct a post-mortem, and the samples were taken and sent to forensic lab, and 6 months now the lab has come back with results saying that the drug which was given for gastritis was Propofol. Cases like this shake the core of medical ethics. See, doctors have taken the Hippocratic oath for centuries. In that, the primary point is cause no harm to patients. But in this case, we can clearly see that the doctor has taken a drug and administered to the patient with the clear intent to cause harm. How did this happen? How was this even allowed to happen? More than the wife trusting the husband as her husband, she had trusted him as a doctor to treat her. But here what happened? The person actually took a drug and administered to her to cause harm. This is unforgivable. Another alarming factor in this is the ease at which this propofol is available. This is a controlled substance which is available in operation theatre, and it should be given under the inspection of an anesthetist for purposes of anesthesia in the operation theatre. How was this drug allowed to be taken out of OT and brought to house? This is the question which has to be raised, because these are all controlled substances, and in operation theatres clearly you have to write if you take this drug. How was the doctor allowed to take this drug without any inspection, and he took it so easily and used it to harm a person? If he didn't like somebody, he has to leave the person. He has no right to harm the person like this. This is totally unforgivable, and this case has opened up a Pandora's box of the very trust a patient can have on a doctor, and this has shaken the core of medical ethics. See, we can just say that this is a one-off case, but cases like this only give us a eye-opener that these drugs are so easily available and they can be taken out of operation theatres. This has to be stopped, and more control laws have to be brought, and it has to be made very strict in hospitals in such a way that in operation theatres these drugs should be taken only when needed, and it should be given under the inspection of an anesthetist in operation theatre only. That too for the purpose of surgery. They cannot use it for purposes like this. And how this doctor took this propofol from the operation theatre is the question which has to be raised now, and stricter laws is the need of the hour for cases like this. This case has turned out to be an eye-opener for all of us. Of course, a life is lost and we cannot get it back, and appropriate judiciary law has to be applied to punish the people who have done this. But let's see the bigger picture in this. Now, how did this drug be available so easily to the doctor such that it was taken out of OT is one which has to be inquired. Now, what can we do to prevent this in the future? The first thing which has to be done is employ appropriate fingerprints as well as retinal scans for access to these drugs. See, drugs like propofol are not available in pharmacy where you can just get it and you can give it. These are all controlled drugs which are available only in hospitals. So hospitals must have a clear digital ledger where every ml of propofol is accounted for, because they can just take a bottle, give some to a patient and take it outside. See, that has to be prevented by lodging every ml of propofol where it was used. This is already implemented in some hospitals, but my request is we'll have to implement this in all hospitals, because this has created a gross mistrust between a patient and a doctor. See, we cannot write this off as an one-off case. Seeing this, a lot of other bad things can happen. So using this case as an eye-opener, we have to make sure that drugs like propofol are not easily available to anyone, and nobody can misuse these drugs, because these drugs are very dangerous, because tomorrow someone else can also do this. Similarly, cases have happened in USA also. Doctor by the name Scott Redmond used the propofol to kill his wife. After that, America, every hospital, they employed clear digital ledgers to appropriately document every ml of propofol used. I think this is the thing which has to be done in India, where all these drugs which are used for anesthesia have to be clearly logged, such that who is taking the drug, where they are using it. If they are clearly logged, these kind of cases can be avoided. So in conclusion, we can see that a husband has killed his wife for his own benefits. We don't know the actual motive that will come in the trial, but what life lost is a life lost. It's not going to come back. But this case is an eye-opener for all of us of the flawed medical system in our country. Drugs like this should be made more strict, and it should not be allowed outside the operation theatre. Also, the mistrust which has now developed between a patient and a doctor has to be repaired, and that also will take time to happen. So this case is an eye-opener to all of us, and we should make sure that cases like this never happen again. Because if somebody is unhappy with someone, the answer to that is leave the relationship. You cannot harm the other person. You can speak to the person and leave the person. You live a happy life, the person will live a happy life. It doesn't mean that you go and you can cause harm to that person. That is unacceptable. So this case is something which is needed to think about what is happening in our country, and we need to introspect what is actually happening, and we should make sure that cases like this don't happen again by bringing stricter laws for this, and also for controlled substances. Do like, share and subscribe me for more interesting videos.